Good morning, everyone. This morning I got an opportunity to sleep in, so I decided to take advantage of it because it is gloomy and rainy and ugly outside, and it is so warm in here. So I've decided to do beauty and science news from in bed. This episode is going to rank very low on the fashion scale, but it will be very high in SnUgGlE factor, and that's all that matters this morning. So let's take a look at our first article in Beauty and Science News, and that is microbeads. In 2016, a miracle happened. Republicans and Democrats found something they can both agree on. Oddly enough, it's cosmetics. More specifically, the microbead legislation. The Microbead-Free Waters Act of 2015 passed the Senate unanimously and ended up on President Obama's desk on December 28th for him to sign. So it's signed into a law. And microbeads are really interesting because pre-2013, we absolutely loved them and put them in everything. So they were in our shower gels and our face scrubs and our toothpaste. But what's interesting is in 2016, we've come to love to hate them. And the reason is because we're finding evidence that they're accumulating in oceans and ending up in fish bellies and ultimately ending up in us. So overall, I'm going to say yay for microbeads legislation. But before I pat myself on the back, I found this statistic. It's that microbeads from cosmetic products represent only 0.1 to 1.5% of the total amount of plastic debris emitted in the North Sea marine environment. What this means is that we also need to look at other industries to reduce their plastics or their plastic outputs, and also look to us to take some responsibility when it comes to using plastic bags and plastic water bottles. So if you haven't made a New Year's resolution yet, maybe it's to reduce your use of plastics. Ooh, that was aggressive, but hit my computer. Next story has to do with the EOS lawsuit. Who hasn't heard about that, right? So EOS, or the evolution of smooth, is the maker of these brightly colored dome-shaped lip balms. And they rang in 2016 with a lawsuit. Sucks for them. But it also sucked for plaintiff Rachel Cronin. What she did was she applied some EOS lip balm to her lips, and her lips began to immediately feel dry and coarse. And so she applied some more, and that eventually led to severe cracking, flaking, bleeding, and general unhappiness. So she decided to share the symptoms that she was experiencing on Facebook, and people reached out to her and said, hey, you know what? I used EOS lip balm, and guess what? I got a reaction like that too. So what happens next? Well, a proposed class action lawsuit. That's what happens next. And I guess the big question is here is, does the lawsuit have any merit? And before you make a decision on that, I wanted to throw some ideas your way. The first thing is when you see the pictures, they're pretty traumatic, right? I mean, these people went through a lot. My heart goes out to everyone who had a bad experience with EOS lip balm, because it must have been a really, really tough week. I did look at the list of ingredients for the lip balm, and there was nothing unusual. They had very common ingredients like olive oil, beeswax, coconut oil, jojoba oil, shea butter. All those things are pretty typical for a lip balm. Some people will react to some products and not others. So it's really hard to formulate something that is going to work for everyone. And just because a product is natural doesn't necessarily mean that it can't cause an allergic reaction. So all of those things are factors to consider. When I looked into this a little bit deeper, I think that Rachel and people like her were probably allergic to what is in the fragrance. They listed as natural aroma on the list of ingredients. And that's because natural aroma or fragrance can be any one of a number of ingredients, any of them potentially being allergenic, and companies don't have to list them because it's part of their trade secret. So they get to keep that under wraps. So anyway, very interesting, complex case. Would love to know what you guys think. Tell me your thoughts. It'd be really interesting to get your perspective. So put them in the comment section below and we can have a discussion about it. Let's see, what's the last story here? It has to do with sun exposure and CES Las Vegas and a product called My UV Patch by L'Oreal. So this is a smart skin patch, and what it does is it contains photosensitive blue dye that changes color when it's exposed to UV light. And this patch is supposed to allow you to measure how much sun exposure you have over time. What the wearer does is you take a photo of the patch and with your mobile phone, and you upload it to an app, and the app analyzes it and then gives you some meaningful results about your overall sun exposure. The tool is going to be used to help educate people about sun protection, which I think is great. And even more awesome is that it's launching in 15 countries and L'Oreal is giving it away for free. So how cool is that? I wanted to add one additional thing. So L'Oreal, if you're listening, it would be really great if the product actually did some sort of notification when you had too much sun exposure. So if you were out in the sun too long, maybe somehow it notified your mobile phone and said, hey, maybe it's time for you to get in the shade. So if that's not already included in the product, then hey, maybe that's something to consider, L'Oreal, if you're listening. That's it for beauty news for this week. I'm going to make sure to include all the news articles in the description below. And I'm also going to include the EOS lawsuit if I can, so you could actually read it and find out more as well. I mean, it's always great to read the original documentation. Certainly it was helpful for me, so I wanted to share that with all of you. I am going to go start my morning. Thanks for joining me and helping me wake up. Hopefully I talked about some interesting stuff, and I will catch you later.